on First at 9 this Saturday, the 15th of March 2025. The brotherly bond. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi scheduled to visit Sri Lanka in April. Memoranda of understanding to be signed during the Indian PM's visit. The call for justice. Render justice of the Easter Sunday attacks or face protests, asserts the Cardinal. Urges the President to make good on the promises he made at the St. Sebastian's Church. Thriving abroad. Sri Lankan-born Derana swears in as Canada's Minister of Justice, the Attorney General and the Minister of Crown Indigenous Relations and Northern Affairs. The growth drive. The government committed to fostering an inclusive economic environment for female entrepreneurs, vows the Prime Minister. The President meanwhile discusses regulating import restrictions to strengthen local industries.
Chilo Dairy, Sri Lanka Kiren Perata. ඔබේ විශ්වාසය දෙනු සෙන්සුරයින් දැන් ළඟම ඇති ෆාමසියෙන් ලබාගත හැක.
කන්ට පරිස්සම් කරගත්තොත්
අපි පරිස්සම්.
ඉතින් මොකටද නිකන් නාගන්නේ? ස්වදේශී කොහොඹ ලෙමන් ග්‍රාස් අද කාලෙට ෆ්‍රෙෂ්ම විසඳුම.
Ada Derana. This is Ada Derana First at 9. Live from Studio 24 in Colombo.
Good evening and welcome to Ada Derana First at 9. I'm Aditya Dirsingha joining you live with the latest in Sri Lanka and around the world. Brought to you by the only Sri Lankan media network to rise to the pinnacle across all media platforms. Recognized as the best by every survey and beloved by the people. Now in your top story tonight, as the nation gradually recovers from the recent spate of high-profile murders linked to organized crime, 2 tragic murders were reported from Grand Pass in the early hours of today. The victims of these murders in Grand Pass were brutally hacked to death. Meanwhile, law enforcement authorities revealed that 4 suspects have been nabbed over the fatal Ambalangoda shooting which occurred yesterday.
At around 6:45 p.m. yesterday, 2 unidentified assailants who arrived on a motorcycle opened fire at a 45-year-old individual in Idamthota, Ambalangoda. The victim, who was promptly rushed to hospital, succumbed to his injuries while being admitted to the Balapitiya hospital. Police suspect that the shooting was carried out by affiliates of Saman Priyantha alias Saman Kolla's gang over suspicions that the victim was operating as a confidential informant for the police, tipping the authorities off on illegal activities in the area. Law enforcement officials confirmed that the victim had no criminal record and that he had been living peacefully in the area. Reports indicate that the victim had previously been assaulted by 2 members of Saman Kolla's gang in January. Meanwhile, earlier this morning, 2 individuals aged 23 and 24 were hacked to death in Veragodalla Grand Pass. The victims have been identified as residents of Maligawatta. According to the police, the 2 individuals had been killed off the back of a violent clash between 2 groups in Veragodalla this morning. Grand Pass police revealed that 4 suspects have been arrested so far in connection to the murder.
Now looking into parliament-related updates, Minister of Foreign Affairs, Foreign Employment and Tourism Vijitha Herath revealed in Parliament today that Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi is scheduled to embark on an official state visit to Sri Lanka this April. Minister Herath noted that during Prime Minister Modi's visit to Sri Lanka, several memorandum of understanding are expected to be signed. Meanwhile, Parliament heated up over the Batlanda Commission report today as well and the recent spree of murders.
I talked of public security yesterday too. Numerous crimes including the Hakmi Manabusa murder, the Kalandan Meegha Kula murder, the Angurukala Palasa murder, the shooting incident reported from Valivaria, the murder which took place in Ambalangoda yesterday, and 2 murders in Grand Pass were reported recently. There is a pressing issue pertaining to public security at the moment. The Inspector General of the Police has not been located yet. The woman who allegedly organized the murder which took place at the court complex is nowhere to be found. I request the government to provide a clear solution to this issue. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi is slated to visit the island in April. His visit anticipates the signing of a set of memoranda of understanding. We will also declare the Sampur solar power plant open for operations.
සූර්ය බල ව්‍යාපෘතිය අපි විවෘත කරනවා. ඔය ප්‍රතිපත්තිය ඔබ අනුගමනය කරා නම්
If you followed those policies, you would have been able to implement the development projects you proposed today. The benefits of such projects would have been passed down to future generations. The Colombo Port development projects were smoothly executed. I saw the foreign minister taking part in the groundbreaking ceremony of the Marina project at Port City. That is very good. We are pleased to see these policy changes.
ඉතින් අද මේ ප්‍රතිපත්ති වෙනස් වෙමින් පවතින එක ගැන අපි සතුටු වෙනවා. අපේ රටේ එක අවස්ථාවක බොහොම ගෞරවයට පාත්‍ර වෙලා තිබිච්ච විදේශ සේවාව
Sri Lanka's well-respected foreign service has now fallen prey to nepotism. This list contains names of 43 individuals who have been appointed at diplomatic posts apart from the portfolio of ambassador. Sri Mal Vikramasinghe, the brother of former First Lady Sharanta Rajapaksa, was appointed the deputy chief of mission in Vienna. HNB Ratnayaka, the son of Minister CB Ratnayaka, was named the second secretary to Moscow. Pradeep Jayawardena, the grandson of former President J.R. Jayawardena, was appointed the consul general in Frankfurt. Chamitra Ramukwella, the daughter of Minister Keheli Ramukwella, was also given a post. Oshada Yapabewardena, the son of Lakshman Yapabewardena, was named the first secretary in Melbourne. This is how they utilized nepotism.
මෙන්න මෙහෙම තමයි nepotism කියන එක use කරේ.
බිමල් රත්නායක මැතිතුමා ඉතාම සංවේග ජනක කතාවක්.
MP Bimal Ratnayaka made a very emotional speech. The speaker was seen crying. I cannot even believe this. We can't cry over issues as such. Ranil Wickremesinghe was called a torturer yesterday. They engaged in politics with this so-called torturer back in 2015. Did they even question about the Batalanda Commission back then? The incumbent government intends to use the situation to secure votes in the upcoming election.
වැඩපිළිවෙලක් තමයි මේ තමුන්නාන්සලා කරන්නේ. මං හිතනවා බටලන්ද කොමිෂන් වාර්තාවත් එක්ක
I believe there are 3 other commission reports which are yet to be tabled in Parliament apart from the Batalanda Commission report. Among them is the Vijay Kumaratunga Commission report. We will table these reports in Parliament in the coming days. 16 organizers of the Sri Lanka Freedom Party were murdered in 1989. 6,300 SLFP members were massacred.
මරලා තිනවා ඝාතනය වෙලා තිනවා.
The Batalanda Commission being tabled is good. You investigate them or you take action. But the problem is all these reports that are generally tabled, we never see any action. The Paranagama Commission was tabled, the Udalagama Commission was tabled. What action has this government, not this government, the previous government taken? This government has had enough time. President has been president for 6 months. If his position was to take action on these things, if it was to investigate, he would have started it by now. Nothing.
Connect our businesses to the global system. In this process, Sri Lanka has become a signatory to several global conventions. The approach the present government has placed on these foreign relationships, we need a framework for this to safeguard these investors coming into Sri Lanka. That's why the budget has proposed for the first time to set up.
Meanwhile, speaking at the parliamentary session today, Minister of Foreign Affairs, Foreign Employment and Tourism Vijitha Herath revealed that a delegation from the European Union is scheduled to visit Sri Lanka next week to assess the EU's generalized scheme of preferences plus or the GSP plus tax concessions granted to the country. The foreign minister also stated that the Sri Lankan embassy in Cyprus will be opened soon with the necessary funds already allocated for this purpose. Meanwhile, the foreign minister further informed Parliament today that an action task force will be established to address the challenges posed by the evolving global tariff structures resulting from the policies of newly elected US President Donald Trump. He noted that the country exports approximately $3 billion worth of goods to the United States, while the country imports from the United States stands at around $368 million. Thereby, he highlighted the need to assess the impact of these policies.
Union Assurance.
චන්දුරුසුනේ කාගෙන් මනාපේ සිංහ TV සඳහා සුපිරි deal.
Don't waste time. Start your degree with pending A-level results this February with our partner universities. Call ACBT on 0117 699 499.
Now, Batalanda continues to dominate political discourse island-wide. Let's take a look at what public representatives had to say about the Batalanda Commission report today.
Batalanda is nothing but deception and a complete farce. I took my oath of office as a lawyer in 1996. As a young attorney, I personally attended court when this matter was taken up. Accusations were made that Ranil Wickremesinghe, who served as the then Minister of Industries, was involved in the Batalanda atrocities. However, no cogent evidence was led in court to back it up. That lack of evidence is exactly why former President Chandrika Bandaranaike Kumaratunga dropped this matter altogether. This incident was brought up again during the 1999 elections to defame Ranil Wickremesinghe. Wickramasinghe. This government too intends to defame Ranil Wickramasinghe by bringing this up again. The government will not use the Batalanda Commission report for short-term political gain. We have already exceeded the expectations of the real victims who experienced the horrors of Batalanda. The next step is to take the relevant legal action. As politicians, we must not interfere in that regard. We don't even need to make statements over it. Why were torture chambers like Batalanda set up? The JVP kicked things off. The JVP assassinated the UNP's chairman, its general secretary, and a few other parliamentarians, along with a friend of former President J.R. Jayawardena. The JVP started their campaign by chanting "Let's kill JR." At the 1988 elections, running for office, supporting candidates, campaigning, voting, or performing election-related duties were punished by death. They killed so many. The torture chambers of Batalanda is a byproduct of that violence, and it is just one among many other solutions concocted by the government to curb the lawlessness. The government had to retaliate in the face of violence. I don't see it to be wrong. A certain prominent lady rose to power by digging up mass graves in Suryakanda. None of them served justice to the victims, since they too were implicated in these crimes down the line. The incumbent government is not implicated anywhere, so we will definitely take stern decisions over the matter. We know that those responsible are now shivering in fear. This group operated as a terrorist outfit back then. There are a number of pictures depicting several incumbent ministers with guns in hand and their feet over corpses. Half of those who were at Batalanda are now in parliament. There were a lot of similar issues, but no commissions were appointed to investigate them. These terrors were not committed unilaterally. Both parties engaged in a killing spree. The JVP was involved in the murders, so they too should bear some responsibility. The JVP's opponents killed a vast number of people too. Since the JVP's opponents killed more, they emerged victorious. A commission must be set up to investigate comprehensively all murders committed by both parties. Limiting the investigation to one group will not be productive. The task here is not to figure out who is more at fault. Certain third parties eagerly wait to capitalize on old wounds. Without a doubt, the LTT was behind the Al Jazeera interview. The JVP is attempting to score political points off it. They should think long and hard about what they intend to do. Ranil Wickramasinghe is no longer a viable political force in Sri Lanka. But if old wounds are reopened with the intention of hurting Ranil Wickramasinghe, many others on the sidelines will be hurt instead.
Now, meanwhile, Archbishop of Colombo, His Eminence Malcolm Cardinal Ranjith, warns the government of protests if the government fails to render justice over the Easter Sunday attacks before the 6th annual commemoration of the Easter Sunday bombings. The Cardinal urged the government to bring the real perpetrators to justice without concealing the truth and forming deals for narrow political or personal interests.
Leaders who claimed power promised justice over the Easter Sunday attacks, but never followed through with any of the promises made. We got this government elected in a bid to change the status quo. However, if such positive change is not being inspired, we will have to reconsider our support. We request the President to make good on the promises he made at the St. Sebastian's Church in Katuapitiya. He vowed that this government will not let this tragedy be buried in the sands of time. We are eagerly waiting for the truth to be uncovered. Through the implementation of a thorough investigation, we need the truth behind this massacre to be revealed. We urge the government to bring the real perpetrators to justice without concealing the truth and forming deals for narrow political or personal interests. We want the government to serve the truth. We will be grateful to the government if we get the opportunity to hear some good news before the 6th annual commemoration of the Easter Sunday attacks. If not, we are left with no other alternative than to initiate demonstrations on the streets.
Now, Sarvajana Balaya's leader, MP Dilith Jayavira, hailed national entrepreneurship as the only way forward for Sri Lanka. Jayavira went on to claim that Sri Lanka has been ensnared by the IMF debt trap because the country lacks national entrepreneurship.
The main office of the Sarvajana Balaya Alliance's Bingiriya constituency office was inaugurated in Panavava yesterday under the patronage of party leader MP Dilip Jayawira. During the meeting, appointment letters were presented to the party's new national organisers of the Bingiriya constituency.
Late Professor Nalin De Silva, the man who taught us Sinhala nationalism, was certain that the journey of the Rajapakshas will come to an end in the near future. Now we must find ourselves a new leader. We believe that Dilip Jayawira is the only person capable of taking on this responsibility. The great Professor Nalin De Silva said that we must discuss with Dilip Jayawira and push him to take over the presidency. The very next day, I visited Dilip Jayawira at his residence. I told him that he needs to engage in politics. Looking at where he is right now since that fateful conversation, I can't help but feel extremely proud and happy. In Parliament today, we have some well-dressed gentlemen. They are convinced, however, that they are in service of the West. Although they have made their way out of rags and into tailor-made suits, they must not forget that they serve the common man. Former President J.R. Jayawardena should have realized that the only genuine path towards development is national entrepreneurship. There is no other alternative. We lost national entrepreneurship since we were ensnared by several conspiracies. We have fallen into the IMF debt trap because we have lost the spirit of national entrepreneurship.
Now, the wild animals that caused crop damage and property damage were counted in the country's first ever animal census this morning. With continuous public outcry against crop damages caused by wild animals, the government took the decision to examine the situation by conducting the country's first ever animal census, excluding elephants. Therefore, the census commenced today at 8 a.m. and went on until 8:05 a.m. to count 4 crop-damaging animals in gardens and farmlands. People of the Kegalle district participated in the animal census today in a bid to address rampant crop damage caused in the district by pests. The public participation for the animal census was also seen in the eastern and southern provinces. Meanwhile, Deputy Minister of Agriculture Namal Karunaratne and Deputy Minister of Housing T.B. Sarath also participated in the island-wide animal census.
Fast-track your career from O-levels with eSoft.
Diabetol, සීනි වලින් පරිස්සම් වන ඔබට අමතක නොවන පෝෂණය.
Kalani wire, කිසි ගින්නක් නැහැ.
කිසි ගින්නක් නැහැ. Kalani Fire Shield Wire.
Now, President Anura Kumara Dissanayake convened with officials of the Ministry of Industry and Entrepreneurship Development yesterday at the Presidential Secretariat for discussions on enhancing the efficiency and integration and development of the manufacturing sector. Key topics at the meeting included the government-led initial investments and proper regulation to empower small and medium-scale entrepreneurs, the establishment of local small-scale industries within investment zones, and challenges related to business loans faced by small and medium-scale enterprises. The President directed officials to expedite the release of lands allocated to the Ministry of Industry that have not been released so far, and to swiftly implement tax exemptions for tourists to boost the gem and jewellery industry. Further discussions were held on regulating import restrictions to strengthen local industries, prioritizing local suppliers in construction industry procurement, and resolving issues in the gem and jewellery sector. Sri Lankan-born Gary Anandasanguri has been sworn in as the Minister of Justice and Attorney General of Canada, as well as the Minister of Crown Indigenous Relations and Northern Affairs during a swearing-in ceremony at Rideau Hall in Ottawa yesterday. The ceremony marked the appointment of new Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney and a streamlined cabinet, with Indigenous Affairs ministers remaining unchanged. Born in Jaffna, Sri Lanka in 1973, Anandasanguri is the son of V. Anandasanguri, a prominent Sri Lankan Tamil politician and leader of the Tamil United Liberation Front. His political career began when he joined the Liberal Party of Canada. He secured victory in 2015 federal elections in Scarborough Rogue Park with 60.1% of the vote. Anand Sangari has been a strong advocate for human rights in Parliament and has also played a key role in indigenous affairs. In May 2021, he was appointed Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Crown Indigenous Relations, and later that year he became Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Justice and Attorney General of Canada. In July 2023, he was appointed Minister of Crown Indigenous Relations. Welcome back. You're joining Ada Derana, Sri Lanka's most trusted news source. Now addressing bottlenecks which hinder women from realizing their full potential, Prime Minister Dr. Haruni Amarasuriya claims that the government is committed to breaking barriers by fostering an inclusive economic environment where women can thrive as business leaders, entrepreneurs and exporters. Speaking at an event in Colombo recently, the Premier recognized women-led businesses in key sectors such as IT, agribusiness and engineering as gateways of significant contribution to Sri Lanka's export economy.
The launch of the She Trades Sri Lanka Hub, organised by the International Trade Centre and the Sri Lanka Export Development Board, aimed at providing new opportunities for Sri Lankan female entrepreneurs, was held yesterday in Colombo. The new initiative is funded by the United Kingdom's She Trades Commonwealth Plus programme, which will establish 200 women-led cooperatives, fostering supportive environments for female entrepreneurs.
Thanks to the dedicated work of many individuals and institutions, the tide is turning, and Sri Lanka's economic recovery is in our sights. Whether that tide ebbs or flows will now depend on what we do next together. Today, women make up barely 1/3 of Sri Lanka's workforce. When women are in a position to lead, all of society is better for it. We saw that just months ago when the Sri Lankan election sent record numbers of women to Parliament and named its third ever female Prime Minister. And we're very grateful for the close relationship we have across the projects in Sri Lanka, spanning initiatives that range from supporting SMEs and startups in making best use of the intellectual property system to helping create value-added jobs. And we stand ready to support your efforts so that every Sri Lankan girl and woman has the opportunity to define her path in life.
And I'm very pleased and most excited by this initiative that we are also supporting to support female entrepreneurs through the launch, jointly with the ITC and the Export Development Board, of the She Trades Hub as part of the She Trades Commonwealth Plus programme. I think one of the easy wins for this country looking for economic growth, looking for new export markets, is the empowerment of women. And as we all know from experience around the world, the thing that drives economic growth starts with SMEs. It's the SMEs that grow into the titans of tomorrow. And I hope if I come back to this country in a decade, what I will see is many more titans of Sri Lanka led by women.
Women play a pivotal role in Sri Lanka's economic and social development, as we all know. Despite their immense contribution, structural barriers continue to limit their full participation in the economy. Our government is committed to breaking these barriers by fostering an inclusive economic environment where women can thrive as business leaders, entrepreneurs, and exporters. The Sri Lanka Export Development Board has been at the forefront of driving export-led growth for our country. Today, we recognize that to truly expand Sri Lanka's presence in global markets, we must harness hitherto untapped potential of women entrepreneurs. Women-led businesses, especially in sectors such as ICT, agribusiness, and engineering, have the ability to contribute significantly to our export economy. The She Trades Sri Lanka Hub will serve as a vital platform, offering women entrepreneurs access to essential knowledge, networking opportunities, and support mechanisms that will enable them to expand their businesses beyond our borders.
That's all the news we have for you tonight. Thank you. Have a great night.